I think week 1 is important just because you see how well the speed can go.
Niels jumped on by Lulex. Does he have the damage condemn against the wall? Yes, he does. Niels is unstoppable.
Origin is very well trained. Maybe they will fall off a bit. We don't know. But right now, I think Origin is a team to watch out for.
But the massive gnaw against the wall. Fnatic have just won the team fight.
I think having first win is pretty meaningful.
Just getting the first games done is like really important for me because I'm a new player in the team.
As Candy Pan is trying to reply, the magical journey will not give anyone a magical life. And Fnatic ace SK Gaming.
It's just depending on time. I don't think you can judge too much from the first week.
Ghost Pepper's gonna get a hook on Woolet, but it won't matter. Everyone from Gambit, they've backed out or died.
It will take time. I think practice is what makes teams and players good. We'll see. Time will come.
You can slowly make yourself a picture of how LCS is going to be.
From our studio in Berlin, Germany, where the action is ramping up and our fans are awake and ready to go as they were when they were in the queue a couple of minutes ago as well. Definitely ready for all the games here today, and their Pyra is getting hooked up to be on air in just a couple of minutes. We see Giants entering the building. Their coach Lothar looking for another victory. 1-1 in week 1, not a bad result at all. Pepinero at the back, and they're the Elements, their opponents in the very first match of the day, setting up their gear on stage as we speak. I'm Eefje Schok-Zaportra here to take a closer look at the summer split with the help of Challenger Series caster James Stress O'Leary, as well as our very own Mitch Krepo-Voorspoels and Trevor Quickshot Henry. We are all ready to go, but before we get to the standings, we do want to mention that Martin de Visio Lunge won't be on the broadcast this week, and for full context, please see the official statement over on lolesports.com. For us, though, we're going to take a look at the league after week 1 and take a look at the standings coming with that. At the top of the table, Fnatic and Origen 2-0, a bunch of teams in the middle of the table, and at the bottom, SK Gaming and Gambit. And while Stress, Origen coming straight from Challenger, absolutely wrecking it in week 1.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that for Origin, they are no longer a Challenger team. They have unseated so many of the top players in Europe so far along the way. They are sitting pretty. And what a start for Origin. First week, first MVP goes to Niels, brand new player in the European LCS, and he's absolutely stomping people in the bottom lane.
Yeah, what a game on Vayne as well. Very impressive. And then another team that's at the top of the table, more expected, but maybe even doing better than we had expected. Fnatic, Krepo after MSI looking sharp.
Yeah, I think they just look really steady. A little slower than usual, but calculated in their approach, and they didn't give away too much, if anything. And Reckless already meshing well with the team, and I think that's very important for them because that was one question mark they had, but so far looking good. And Huni with an impressive Gnar performance.
Yeah, something actually didn't have in Spring Split. I think Huni's Gnar last week really showed growth for him as a player and also for the team because they played around that, a lot more controlled, a lot more coordinated.
Yeah, definitely looking scary straight off the bat. Not looking as scary, Gambit and SK Gaming at the bottom. Of course, different circumstances for both of these teams. Trevor and both saying in the video, you can't read too much off that first week. We need time to amp up.
Yeah, they definitely do. You know, and I talked about the teams last night on PTL and said Gambit and SK, they've changed their 80 carries, but what a difference it makes to their respective teams. With Candy Panda last year, SK were a very mid to late game team. They were smart, they were rotation based. They really struggled early. And I think a little bit of those problems still shone through last week. For SK, they looked much better against Fnatic than they did against the Wolves on day 1. So I'd like to see how much they can develop in the weeks to follow and whether or not that old style of SK will still work in this new year and this new meta.
We'll see after some practice indeed. When it comes to the meta, we did see some very clear trends. Krepo, walk us through those.
Yeah, we did see that some of these champion picks were becoming quite predictable and prevalent, and we decided to track that a bit. So the initial graphic right here, you see a lot of information on your screen, but what I want you to focus on is the top picks and bans in this split. So this is the sum of the picks and bans, and Gragas and Maokai, were picked or banned together with Kalista every single game. LeBlanc and Alistar almost the same. Maybe one game they weren't picked. Same for Rek'Sai and Urgot. So very, very prevalent picks, and it makes these picks and bans pretty predictable, especially on the ban side. A lot of these champions, or some of these champions rather, were banned a lot, and that's Urgot, LeBlanc, and Rek'Sai, banned in 60% of the games. 6 out of 10 games. I did the math. But the interesting trend right here is that Copenhagen Wolves banned Rek'Sai and LeBlanc twice in both, so basically in both their games, and LeBlanc first, one on blue side, one on purple side. So that will be interesting to see how that develops today. Now, the reason we actually started looking at these stats, and that's the next graphic, is Alistar. Alistar was the most prevalent support champion, and just so interesting to see how well he was doing, not only in Europe, also over in NA. And in Europe, he has a 5-in-1 win-loss ratio. That's 83% win rate. That's absolutely insane, especially with a KDA of 6.9 as a support. Really strong champion, and I would be surprised if he would even make it past the ban stage. He should be a permaban right now. And then Morgana kind of surprised me. 4-0, kind of had fallen off on the support tier, but with the opportunity to flex it into that earlier LeBlanc that we mentioned, makes it a very valuable pick and seems to be working. 4-0 for Morgana.
Yeah, it definitely worked out. Pekka's Morgana surprised me because it showed Origin at a different pick ban priority. Today we're on 5.10, so some small changes to the champion pool. I want to see whether or not EU picks up the Varus Vayne combos, because we've seen some Varus before. We've seen some Vayne play from Niels last week, and it seems to be a little more popular in the East. And I just want to see whether or not some of that playstyle gets transfused to our local teams.
Yeah, definitely love to see that combo come out. And we'll see what the teams decide to go with. And let's take a look at the matchups for today. Our very first game is Elements versus Giants. And we're going to end the day with UOL versus Copenhagen. We'll stress, what are you keeping an eye on?
I think for me, it's our game of the week. Game 3 for the day, it's H2K versus Gambit. That's going to be a really good game because we don't really know where Gambit are right now. They're 0-2, H2K 1-1. Only one win between those two teams, and you'd expect a lot more from them coming into the summer split.
Yeah, we'll see how they do with a week of practice under their belt. Now, the split has only just begun, but we have announced the locations for the LCS Summer Finals. We're going to be taking a road trip to the Hovet Arena in Stockholm to crown our European Summer Champion. I love me a road trip, and definitely to Stockholm. Well, the tickets will be available later this month, and for more information and all the updates you'll need, be sure to check out lolesports.com. Now, with the summer playoffs in mind, we do want to hear from you guys, so get on Twitter and tell us which role do you think will be the most impactful in the LCS Summer Split and why?
Well, I've got an opinion, and I think the role is the AD carry role, and I think I'm looking at EU a little more than NA in this regard because of the ADC shuffle that we've seen, a number of teams getting some old new faces, new old faces, as it were, and I want to see what sort of impact they're going to have throughout the coming weeks because there's so much importance on top and junglers and mid, and ADC feels a little underplayed, but I think good players are going to rise above.
I disagree there, Trevor. To make a true good AD carry shine, you need a support. You need a solid, good support. You need the young, hungry players. Now that all these washed-up old players are out, found themselves different jobs, ended up some certain desk somewhere, there's room for potential to grow, and I think support will be the role to watch.
All right, from washed-up player to washed-up commentator. No. Brand new, and so happy to have you. But you guys, as always, make sure you send your responses at LL Esports. Use that hashtag LCS, and we're going to talk over your thoughts here on the desk later today. For now, though, it is time for some action and diving into our first match of the day and the week between Elements and Giants Gaming. They're both coming off a 1-1 opening week. Let's start by taking a look at the lineup for Elements. They're on the blue side. JWoww, Dexter, Froggen, Tabs, Promise Q, and their coach, Nif. Now, 1-1 on the first week, a win versus Gambit, a loss versus the Unicorns of Love, and, well, doing a bit slower in the early game, in the first 15 minutes of the game, and combined to the two games, only one kill, which is kind of, even though it's mostly different members, the Alliance/Elements of old.
And I think this is going to make Nif very happy. Back in Spring Split, when we were scrimming with Nif as our coach, he kept insisting that we would stop fighting so much every damn game. It became a bloodbath and there was no objective focus. So I think he took it a little bit too far. I think Elements is playing far too passive. They could have gotten punished very hard in their game against Gambit if Diamond Prox chose to actually counter jungle Dexter. But they got away with it and it worked for them in a very big stompy game in the late game. But I think their tendency to be slow will come back to bite them.
I think so too. And, the proof is in the pudding. You look at Elements from the last split, you look at, Alliance, as it were, previously, and the slower playstyle with these scaling comps simply got outplayed. One of the first things that we hit on at the beginning of the summer split was how effective teams that look for kills correlated to your placement on the standings. And Elements is not one of those teams. So I would like to see them going to the Bloodbath scrim style. If, however, their opponents let them scale, then of course that's a different story. But yeah, in the past it hasn't worked. So will it continue to show the same results later on?
We'll see if an adaptation comes in, and they're up against the Giants on the red side for this one with Werlip, Frederick, Pepinero, Adri, their new support Godfred, and Lothar. When we talk about well, active early games, the Giants last week, super active early game. Pre-15 minutes, they took 4 towers, and their opponents only took 1. They took 2 dragons, their opponents only took 1, but they did tend to die a lot in the process.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem here for the Giants, is that with all of the towers, all of the dragons, they gave away 9 kills in the early game before 15 minutes and only picked up 5 kills in return. 4, 5. Yeah, the
somewhere around that mark.
Yeah,
I believe it was 5, but they only picked up a handful of kills, gave away a lot to the enemies, and a team like Giants giving up that, if they do that game after game, they'll look to struggle as they continue through the season.
I'm hoping the same style works though, because I think that's Giants' way to beat Elements today. If they use that aggressive play style but make slightly less mistakes, they can build up a lead and beat Elements, because if it goes to mid to late, I think Elements is the stronger team.
At the same time, I think Elements will have learned from their mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but from their weak spots. It was pretty obvious in regard seeing how passive they were. I hope they kind of fix this, especially preparing for a team like Giants, when you know they're gonna come out swinging, and you probably have the edge on them later on in the mid to late game, because they yet again became a very 4-man defending Pepinero type of team, and I really want to see them break that mold.
Yeah, we'll see what they decide to go with. It's time to check in at the caster desk, and as we'll go, we'll hear from 80 carries from across the LCS on the return of the Queen of the Freljord in competitive play.
The new Ashe is very interesting.
For me, it feels great because Ashe was like my first champion I ever played in the game.
Oh, actually, I have a history of being like the worst Ashe player who's ever lived. She's the first champion that you play when you first start the game, but I was always crap at her.
Actually, my first champion I played ever in League was Ashe.
Ashe is crazy because she has amazing single target damage with Q, and she has amazing AoE damage with W.
Even if the rework is not that big, I still think like she got incredibly buffed because of her whole passive QW interaction sort of thing.
She's a really strong initiator. It's really easy to find picks with her, and she's really strong laning phase right now. Like you can spam the W, and she's got really high damage output with her bursts.
I feel like Ashe is just like borderline OP in a way because she just works in every situation.
She's like the full package AD champion right now, and her only weakness is that she's really weak to flanks.
She's kind of vulnerable against certain comps, but if you have Morgana, for example, Morgana Ashe, you can peel pretty easily with it.
It just feels like you play Ashe in a different way now. Before it was you have to manage your mana because you have to be able to toggle your Q so you can get the slow stuff, but you already have that now, but that doesn't even cost mana anymore. So you have perma slow, and then you get this 5-stack thing going on, and once you get this hail of arrows thing, like you just do so much damage. She's just strong overall right now.
I think a new Ashe is actually a really good pick. It's really fun.
Well, maybe we'll get to see some more Ashe today. Hello, everyone. I'm Devin Pyrotechnics Young, and of course, manning the desk with me is Mitch Crepo, Force Pulse, the man so nice. We're going to give him an introduction twice, and we're about to get into Champ Select between Elements and Giants Gaming. Crepo, what are you looking for here today?
A lot of bans and picks, Pyra. So I want to see if Alistair is finally banned where he belongs currently, because he's quite the strong support.
Absolutely. Well, we saw that Morgana as well. I mean, there's a lot of really hotly contested stuff in the pick ban so far today. And I think even though it's a new patch, even though it's a different day, not that much has changed there. I expect to see probably a lot of the same. What do you think about that? Any surprises that you're thinking about?
Yeah, just like Wicho said, we are on 5.10 right now. Gragas received a slight nerf, but I don't think it'll be enough to knock him off his tier 1 jungle position at all. And I'll be keeping my eyes on the supports because, if I'm correct, both are new to the LCS.
Absolutely. And that's kind of a story that hasn't been touched on so much for this particular matchup. But yeah, new supports, only a couple of games in. We'll see how they perform going forward. Starting off the game, we have a Rek'Sai banned away. There's a Vladimir. And of course, the signature Jax. These are going quick, though.
Yeah, these bans are going quite quick. Rek'Sai, another ban on him. Teams seem to favor to ban Rek'Sai on blue side just to open up the Gragas first pick potentially and put some pressure on their opponents. They basically say, okay, we're banning Rek'Sai right now. We will get Gragas first pick, or you sacrifice one of your prepared bans, and change it up a little bit, and then we still get another good first pick.
So also the Rise is banned away by Elements. We didn't talk as much about the Vlad. We'll get back to that in a minute because Gragas is taken away. We'd already seen the LeBlanc, very common ban, but as you mentioned, this lets Alistar through. Elements pick that up right away.
So we have a Zir and Cassiopeia still open, but as we saw last week, Pepinero is not afraid to play into a Zir with a possible Xerath later on, and he has a counter pick in mid lane. Normally teams would react with a priority pick here, but I imagine Giants could leave their mid pick to last to counter pick Froggen. They banned out the Vladimir because it's annoying if played into a Zir. If by some way, shape or form Giants would be forced into playing in a Zir mid themselves, they don't want to play it into Froggen's annoying Vladimir. Slow bans here. The last ban, we didn't really touch on it too much, was Gragas, so Elements will have to dig deep for another jungler. Sejuani maybe, Evelynn. A matchup that both teams are quite even trading, so they trade a tier lower. So both tier 1s are out, so you want to trade a tier lower. And Godfred?
You may see that Morgana pickup. I am interested in speculating on the jungle pick, but we're going to have to talk about Giants jungle pickup right now because it is Evelynn. So Frederick will snap that up for himself. He's one of the few that didn't play it in the first week. Now, there were a couple that didn't play in the first week, but we saw a lot of Evelynn across the LCS. To mixed success, you could say.
To mixed success, indeed. Some Evelynn players faltered, in my opinion, in their build path. Some didn't use the fact that Evelynn has a lot of invisible pressure on the map and didn't counter jungle. I think Diamondbox springs to mind there. Dexter likely to answer with a Sejuani, perhaps on this rotation already to just hide more picks. Now, second rotation on blue side is very interesting because a lot of teams, they will either want to take things away that they don't want the enemy to have, or they just want to fill in the void. If they already see the enemy jungler, they already see the enemy support, they just want to pick similar roles that don't give away too much information so they can at least have a partial counter pick on the third rotation. See what Elements goes for.
Yeah, well, they are familiar with that Evelynn Sejuani dynamic since that is what they played versus Gambit in that matchup. But they don't have to take it now. Instead, they lock in the Hecarim, and they also grab themselves a Kog'Maw.
And Kog'Maw has seen a lot of play both in Europe and in A, and just like Evelynn with mixed success, but he's such a potent mid to late game carry pretty much. Even though he pokes, he carries pretty hard, and we saw it for the Unicorns last week, and we saw for Giants Gaming how well poke champions could still work in this metagame, but it might still be a flex.
It might still be a flex. There's always the possibility to put on tabs. It's kind of funny how, you know, it goes back and forth, and now we're more likely to see it on the mid, and that's just been the way it has been cropping up all around. And, you know, with those summoners, you could definitely anticipate it so far. On the side of Giants, though, they let this one tick down for a little while. Where do they go from here? They still need an AD carry, they still need a mid lane, they still need a top.
I know Audrey likes playing Jinx, but Kalista, Urgot, and Sivir are all open and haven't even been picked, so that's peculiar that none of those champions have been taken out. I like the Maokai if they opt for the Sivir, because Sivir is usually pretty weak into Kalista, so if the Kalista comes out, so you need a way to deal with it. Evelynn doesn't really deal with it all too well because you can still hop out of the slows, but the Maokai will be the one champion that can lock down the Kalista if the counter pick comes out from Elements. Not quite sure, but it could happen.
Yeah, and it'll also lend itself to the whole, you know, run-at-you style that we see built around Sivir's as well. So not just her ability, her on the hunt, but also building the Righteous Glory on the Maokai, the Twisted Advance. There's a lot of gap close ability there, and we'll see what Elements decide to answer with. Froggen, he was a beast on the Victor. We'll see if that's what they decide to pick up and flex the Cog or not.
I would still like the Kog'Maw mid and pick a different AD carry. For tabs here, I would like to see the Alistar lane because I think it's so potent and so strong just in the game right now. However, Kog'Maw on AD carry is fine too. Tabs is a phenomenal AD carry player. He can play pretty much any of the meta champions, if not even go off meta for a bit. Definitely not going to see any Urgot hovers because he does poorly into Sivir. And as we expected, Sejuani hovers for Dexter. Not much left otherwise in jungle. You don't want to go for that Jarvan, that Frederick last week picked, but not too big of a fan of that.
Yeah, I think that when Sejuani's open, especially someone like Dexter, who has shown to be very, very strong on that in the opening week, really a no-brainer there. I think the Kog'Maw lane, though, yeah, a little bit... I would have liked to see it in the mid lane as well. I'll just leave it at that.
The reason I would have liked to see it in the mid lane is because you can pick a more mobile AD carry at least, and what Elements did right now is they have two immobile threats. They have the Kog'Maw in the bottom lane and the Victor in the mid lane. Both are very susceptible to getting on the hunted down by the Maokai with a Black Shield that you can't stop. Alistar can't stop a Maokai that has Black Shield on top of him, and they can lock down one carry and immediately blow it up. It will be absolutely crucial for the Hecarim on JWoww to disrupt the backline enough to stop that follow-up damage if Giants are allowed to group, however.
Yeah, That is the key thing here now with the timer ticking down. Giants switching up the picks at the last moment. It's going to settle on Diana for Pepinero.
Yeah, and a subtlety we've actually missed is that last week people were picking Kog'Maw into Victor because later in the game he actually outranges him pretty hard. So Elements removed that part of the equation, and now Pepinero has to dig deep for a champion we haven't seen that often. I don't think we've seen it in the European LCS so far. Diana coming out, wants to close the gap, and again, Victor is immobile. Once you get to him, you can kill him, but you have to prevent from dropping too low before you get to the Victor, and that will be interesting to see if Pepinero can succeed in that mission.
Precisely, so that is that lane matchup. Looking at the compositions though, for Giants Gaming, I think it makes quite a lot of sense. It's quite obvious, you know, with that Sivir, not just that, they want to run at the enemy team, and of course flank with the Evelynn. But for Elements on the other hand, it seems a bit different.
Yeah, Elements they basically want to reenact that scene in Braveheart where everybody goes like, hold. They want to hold their horses, stay steady, protect their carries, and have Alistar counter de-engage. No Black Shield on somebody, knock him out, knock him up. They want to peel for the carries and hopefully survive and counter-initiate with the Sejuani ulti. But they have to be careful because there's a lot of all-in wombo combo potential coming in, or assassins rather than more than wombo coming in from Giants, because they can send in the Diana from one side, they can send in Black Shield and Maokai, Evelynn can flank, and Sivir, she can peel for her own in the backline with added mobility, with Spell Shield, and she can survive.
Yes, indeed. We'll have to see how they do play it out. It'll be a little difficult to hold your horses when you got a Hecarim on your side, but we'll see, Krepo. Now, why don't you guys share with us what you think is going to happen this time around? Go ahead and hit us up at LL Esports is your destination. Hashtag EL win or GIA win. We're getting ready to kick off week number 2 here in Europe, and here we go. Onto the Rift with Elements and Giants.
Now, one thing I do like about Elements is that they have some pressure in the early game. Hecarim can control a lot of the wave at least, so he will not be automatically or necessarily pushed into his tower. It also opens up for Dexter to potentially gank top lane, because you don't want to pay too much attention to the bot lane when you have 2 scaling AD carries and the one has more damage, the other more utility. You don't want to spend too much time ganking that Sivir, in my opinion. So it's good that they can focus down the top lane, get Hecarim rolling, get one of those mobility carries rolling on Elements' side. And in Victor, and I just want to see pressure from Elements. I want to see them go forward, not get pushed in all 3 towers, because that led to a very stale and passive early game, and that's not what you want against Giants.
No, Giants are definitely a team that are unafraid to make early plays, to get involved. Yes, they pay for it with their lives quite often, but you know, they still started off with the same record as Elements here. Both teams are looking for their second win in this split. And you know, as it gets very, very important, the further you go, you still don't want to give anything up very early.
Interesting mirror on the bot lane. Both teams ward or leave their left side open, and they go for the 2-man bot, and an immediate ward kill from Elements, and they're officially in the CS lead.
They're on the board there. Frederick throws down a ward on his side. We'll see if they attempt a lane swap around. It's a little bit late for that, I think, so doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Pretty standard looking lanes right here. Hecarim starting off with a camp, Maokai starting off with a camp. Wonder if Whirlip's going to donate those 3 Raptors to Pepinero. He looks like he's hovering. Either he's going to help or steal. Let's see which one it is for Giants.
All right, so on the other side, on the red side, JWoww hanging out by the Raptor camp of their own. So you know, both the top laners looking to get themselves a little bit of a CS start, get the ball rolling, as it were. Raptors go down thanks to a couple of saplings. Froggen, meanwhile, with Pepinero in this mid lane, definitely want to keep an eye on that matchup as the game goes.
And Giants managed to prevent a deep ward from Elements, so Elements now has no idea where Evelynn is started. Add that to her invisibility in her kit, and Dexter might have to be careful in his first clear. Sejuani goes very low, and so does Evelynn. So if Evelynn chooses to skip one camp and suddenly go find Dexter in his jungle, he might be in for a surprise, but doesn't look likely to happen.
Yeah, I think they might give each other a decent bit of respect. So far, that seems to be the case. No shenanigans here. And you got to wonder how much, you know, plays into it, knowing your opponent as well, knowing it. Will Frederick go in and counter jungle me? If you don't think it's likely, it may not change your mindset as much.
Yeah, if you have a good read on the opponent, that definitely helps. We've passed the stage where level 2 ganks are usually coming out, so both teams should be aware that junglers are going to go for a full clear at this point, and base, barring any jungle shenanigans, because look at Evelynn's HP right now. She's already so low. She will have to base. We will see probably likely the same on Dexter's side on Sejuani. So both junglers will have to base it. And Frederick's struggling here a bit.
Yeah, he's having a little bit of trouble dealing with this blue buff. The hate spikes are flying. He will be able to clear it away, but man, when you said Evelynn gets low, you weren't kidding.
Yeah, at least you have the panic mechanic where you can kite the buff around and spam hate spikes to get safely out of there. And yeah, as we see in any Alistar lane, yes, you will get pushed in. You will have to CS on the tower. but that's fine. You have the sustain on the heal. You can bounce the wave back and start pushing out more aggressively if you choose so. And both of these teams are content with farming just throughout the early to mid game. But we'll see if Audrey, due to pushing in a lot, can get a little bit of a CS advantage. He's 3 CS ahead right now, not too much. As long as that gap doesn't widen to the 10-20 CS mark, I think Tabs will be very happy here.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely. Anytime you can go even close to even as a Kog'Maw, you've definitely had a good lane. Let's see what Frederick decides to do. He's actually skipping the Krugs right now, and that means that Ward's not going to check anything on him. Will this be some trouble for JWoww from the top? We'll have to see. Meanwhile,
on Godfrey, on Promise Q, the battle of the new supports right here. But Frederick is still hovering in the top lane.
Just outside of the vision range. JWoww nearly gets to him. He has no defensive summoners here. We saw what happened last week when a Hecarim got a little bit too comfortable up in the top lane without those. We'll see how this starts. In comes Frederick. Whirlib jumping on him. Arcane smash. Will the pony get away? Or will this be it? 8 spikes are flying. It's first blood. And Frederick is just out of range of the tower.
Frederick barely gets out of that with his life. Almost got that extra tower shot, but makes it out. And this is crucial for Giants. They have to push in. Teleport is still on cooldown on JWoww. And look at all those creeps he's going to be missing if Whirlib pushes this wave in. This is huge for Giants and almost predictable. You said it last week. We saw Hecarims without the flash get ganked over and over and over. Where was Dexter to counter gank this? Potential slip up from Elements?
Oh, where was Dexter? I think the answer to that is down bottom lane, but he's gonna take a Dark Binding. No invisibility for that giant Pig Rider.
And I said this last week as well. I think Dexter plays too much around his bottom lane. What is this Sejuani gonna do against a double shield lane? You have Black Shield and Spell Shield. That's not enough to break open the gank. Even if you do, where do you go from there? Kog'Maw with items will scale perfectly fine into the mid game. You're ganking a utility AD carry on Giant side and leaving their main tank that's gonna dive on top of your carries like untouched and even gets help from his jungler. I don't like this priority in terms of ganking, and I think Giants had the better idea in the early game, and it showed in the stats for last week as well.
Yep. If you look at that early game, we talked about it a lot for Elements. They're very, very passive despite the new roster. Still looked a bit much like the same. And, you know, only getting 1 kill in the first 15, giving up 2 deaths, and that's between 2 games, by the way. You don't have to be really action-oriented, but they're already trending this way. I feel like it's definitely making it predictable.
Just sprinkle some action in it. You don't have to go full UOL. A little bit is nice.
Just a little bit. Well, history's about to repeat itself right now as Whirlib and JWoww duking it out. Frederick comes in. Nice juke from JWoww, and he knows he's got some backup this time around. Dexter looking to chase on. They turn their attention to Whirlib. Frederick comes back, however. JWoww might have overstepped his bounds, and it looks like we'll see a jungler for top traded in that top lane. Meanwhile, Froggen is ignited. Peppy is gonna go for him, and he even misses the gravity field. And he gets away.
Deja vu for Pepineru. Steps out of the tower inch right before the next shot comes out. He survives. This is definitely going to make Froggen a little angry, I would say. Barely makes it out alive there. And yeah, on the top lane, traded kills. And you have to be careful. Once you go for these all-ins in the top lane, everybody drops low. What you have to watch out for is who has minion aggro. Because in a full wave, 6 minions helping the enemy is going to matter a lot, and I think that's what both teams kind of underestimated. And you saw this pause in the middle of the fight where both of them backed out and it's like, okay, who is winning here? Let's find out. They traded kills.
That part's not the worst thing for Elements, but let's take a look at what happened again in the mid, because that definitely was.
So yeah, Pepinero is about to hit 6 here, and I imagine he will go in, hit 6 with the Q cast. The exhaust comes out from Froggen, and not enough damage to get Peppy low, and he follows up, but action in the bot lane.
Yep, we're right back to it. So Audrey, Black Shield on him. He might just make it out of this one yet. Yes, he does. The Summoner heal was popped as well, and Tabs and Promiscue just didn't have enough damage to chunk him down.
And yeah, at the very start of this clip, we saw Promiscue land a knock-up before the spell shields came out, and I think that's a little slip-up from Giants. That should never happen unless Promiscue flashes. But as we see in the left-hand corner, his flash is still up, so he basically walked in, got the opportunity to smash the ground, angry as he was, and it wasn't shielded by Black Shield or Spell Shield. Perhaps a miscommunication. Who goes first? You know, do I use my shield? Do you use your shield? You don't want to stack them. And I think that's what happened on Giant's side.
You may not be a pro player anymore, Grappa, but you still have those support instincts.
Oh yeah, I failed a lot of shields in my time, Pyra, so...
You got to learn somehow, right?
I know how it goes wrong.
Oh, Frederick, he's still having trouble with these buffs.
Yeah, he smited the red buff.
There we go. That'll get him a little back. But Evelyn is quite a dainty jungler.
Yeah, definitely dancing on a knife's edge here. And Whirlib, 60 CS to 42 in this Hecarim Maokai matchup. As well, the controlled Catalyst will snowball that sustain. We know that that a Maokai could sustain a lot on Spellcast a lot, but Promiscu going in again.
There we go. Audrey, he's got a flash. Again, misses the spell shield. Black shield's on him, however. Godfred now gonna throw down the soul shackles, gets the double stun, and they will walk away, but Giant's bot lane is battered and bruised.
Yeah, lurking in the brush, and you have to respect that on Giant side. You have to, if you're going for a ward in that brush or a phase check, you have to do a preemptive shield. Or you're forgiven, you know. I think only 1 or 2 players in the league can reactively shield that.
And get away with it.
I would have just preemptively shielded, got the ward out, and then back off and play around your cooldowns. Giants, though, 1,200, 1,300 gold in the lead, and we expect the Pepinero getting engaged on.
That might get evened up for just a minute. They're going to throw everything on him, the Chaos Storm. But Dexter will end up picking up that kill, and while Frederick was there, there really was nothing he could do.
Yeah, good kill by Elements, and I like this. Play around your soul lanes, Dexter, not your bottom lane. This game, you're allowed to play around your bottom lane, but I don't think in this composition, because you have these immobile carries, and they work so well, because generally what carries lack in mobility, they add in damage or crowd control, and that works really well with your jungler.
Exactly, and Element's bot lane isn't the one that's really having any trouble. It really was the 2 solo lanes to start things off. And speaking of trouble, now Werlip has found JWoww. Can he get out of there? Yes, he can. But he's gonna think twice about running straight into the tree again.
Yeah, chunking out the Maokai, or chunking out the Hecarim rather, as Maokai in the top lane.
Still throwing out.
JWoww forced to build defensive already with the Bomb Cinder as well. Dexter now is showing up, but I think he's a little late to the party. Should have done it earlier.
Yeah, and this came up for a roam too, and that really. Oh, actually, he helped out with the Gromp, but I think that's just buying a little time here.
And this is only going to get worse. And I think Elements back at the start of the game, they need to identify who they need to snowball and play around that and adjust the jungle paths. And you have an active side of the map and a passive side of the map. And Alistar, Kog'Maw are fine playing passive, but JWoww, he can't play passive because he's a melee ranged horse. You know, he will lead farm, and if he doesn't get fed, then he can't start diving those backlines later in the fights. So I think this will manifest a little bit in the late game, preventing JWoww from assassinating the backline later.
Yeah, they're hoping for that to play out that particular way. But on the side of Elements, though, you take a look at what they were able to do last week, and you know, in their win versus Gambit, it really wasn't until about 20, 22, 23 minutes that the game started turning in their favor, and they were able to snowball it after that. Versus Unicorns, they actually gave up their advantage around the same time. So I'm curious to see when we hit that time in this game, what it looks like at this point. Because right now, Giants, they're holding a lead. It's not huge. There's no dragons in play just yet. It's really been all about the lanes. But Elements still seem content to drag this one out. Let's see what Dexter does down bottom, though. It's a waiting game.
Yeah, On the Hunt is live, Black Shield is live, Spell Shield is no longer live because it just got caught by the poke. Provided Godfrey doesn't flash in for an ulti. Right now, Dexter is what they call in counter gank position. If the enemy aggresses on you, yes, you can act, but you can't act first. So that's a bit of a problem if you're lurking here. And Giants bot lane respects that. They don't want to make an aggressive move and get punished for it, so they're fine playing passive. Really using the opportunity to roam a little bit since he pushed in his lane first.
Yep. It's not too bad to face check on a big tank like Maokai. Also not bad when you have saplings available to you. He's going to throw down a ward just to make sure that Giants have the vision in their favor. This does allow a little bit of time for JWoww to get some free farm, but he's still down 16 to Werlip, and that's about to widen a little bit more. So JWoww is definitely a bit behind on the horse.
Yeah, catching up slowly though. The gold gap, 700 gold roughly right now. And let's take a look at these compositions again. What we do know for Giants is that they're all very short range, so sieging later for them will become a problem. Usually Giants take a lot of towers early, but we don't see that this game. Dexter showing up mid again.
Yep, doesn't have enough gap close to get within range of Pepinero, just narrowly avoiding the Northern Flare, the flail there. But you take a look at the way the fans think at least this game's going to go. That's a big favor for Giants. And speaking of, Peppy's gone in, but he's going to eat the Glacial Prison, and he might be regretting that decision as the Death Laser comes out. Teleport now. Froggen and Dexter on retreat as Frederick is running down the line. Werlip follows him all the way to tower range, and Froggen is slain. Peppy picks him up. Dexter burning away. Will he fall afterwards? Frederick helps it out, and it ends up being a double for Peppy. Meanwhile, though, down goes Werlip. The fight is going all sorts of crazy as Peppy is able to make his escape, but Godfred and Frederick might need a bit more backup here. And down goes Promiscu. Pepinero's back in the picture. JWoww isolated as there's no one left alive. This fight is going 100% Giants. Goodbye, and Frederick gets a kill.
Elements get baited left, right, and center by the Giants. A little greedy on Promiscuous ulti, Unbreakable Will as well. Drops within the duration, and that should never happen to an Alistar. Beautiful execution here. And that flash, I can't stress that enough. That flash from Whirlybee, he faked out as if he was going for Dexter, but then closed the flash on Froggen. Both champions used their flash defensively and enough follow-up damage. Because Whirlybee was ahead, he could tank that tower for so long. And Giants playing beautifully on the back of that one. And the defense coming in, helping their members. We saw Gottfried flash bind to keep the horse off Evelyn. Evelyn turning around later with the haste spike. Giants was not afraid to leave that fight. Let's watch that again. Pepinero going a little bit aggressive. Ulti from Dexter comes in. He has to flash out. I feel teleports are a little late. So we see that these are like middle of the pack tier teams. Teleport does come in first for Whirl, and this is what I mean. Those double flashes, he was going for Dexter, then flashes on Froggen. Both of them aren't sure who they're going on, so they both flash defensively. Dexter gets hunted down. Yes, Whirlybee drops, but watch Promiscuous HP right now, later in the fight, because he gets taken out by Gottfried. This is the flash bind that I was talking about. Saves Pepinero, double ulti from Gottfried, he walks over, and Promiscuous drops while he's still in Unbreakable Will, and that should never happen. JO by now, he's out of mana. Not much is going to happen here. Cool cheeky bind, and Pepinero cleans up. Yeah, no, Frederick steals the kill, but solid action from Giants, and they're 7-3 ahead right now.
Yeah, and speaking of Pepinero, though, he did pick up a couple in that fight. Looks like he might do it again as Froggen gets jumped on. Frederick's the one who comes up with it, but meanwhile, a teleport from JWoww means Pepinero's going down. It's a 1-for-1 mid laner from mid, but Frederick is on the retreat. Smited down by the Hecarim. In comes the Onslaught of Shadows, and he's feared right back into Dexter, but he flashes into the red pit, and he'll make his great escape.
Giants, Giants, Giants. If you just win a fight with teleport advantage, you have to know that eventually the opposing team will have their teleport up. Yes, aggression is fine. Yes, killing Froggen is fine. But be careful. You don't want to give JWoww a free pass back into this game by allowing him to capitalize on a kill with a teleport. Dangerous, maybe overzealous from Giants, but gold lead. 3,000 gold ahead, and that's becoming quite big, Pyra.
Yeah, and by the way, that's with one tower taken. That's by Giants. Obviously, the Dragon hasn't really been a factor in this game. They're not playing League of Legends anymore. They're playing Team Deathmatch.
Team Deathmatch, but you said it, only one tower, and I've stressed this before. Giants, their lineup is very short range. If Sivir is your main sieging potential, you will have a problem closing in the Victor wave clear. Combine that with Kog'Maw, they only need to cast one spell each, and the wave simply vanishes and disappears. So the reaction to that is usually split pushing. If you're facing an insurmountable amount of wave clear, you want to split push. You don't want to split push with a Sivir comp now, do you? Unless you want to push in the lane somewhere collapse. So there's a bit of a mismatch later in the game. So Giants will need a significant gold lead so they can actually dive or maybe outmaneuver elements on the map. But straight up sieging 5v5, they will still have issues regardless of how big the gold lead is.
So Elements, they're able to secure a tower on their own, and a little bit of help from the minions there, but now Giants, they're in position to look at this Dragon. So is Elements, though. This could be our first real full-featured fight. It's just been a series of catches so far. Audrey getting dangerously close, but Dexter and Froggen lying in wait.
Yeah, no dragons have gone down yet in this game. 0 objectives. I think one tower on each side and just a bloodbath, as you said. And it's kind of what we expected from Giants coming out of the door. But now they're 4-8.
Oh, Froggen is stunned for a second. Do they want to jump on him? On the Hunt was popped. They proc the Dragon here, though, Crepo. This is baiting Elements into something, but are Giants baiting themselves? That's the question.
Yeah, and Dexter's running out with a blue buff at this point in the game. I think that went a little wrong there. Froggen would have liked that. If not, Tabs would have liked that. Anybody would have liked that. Not the best on Sejuani, because he's going to go in, cast a spell once, and just tank it up. Dragon, however, gets reset. I like what Audrey is doing here, putting some pressure on the bot lane. You don't want to dance around endlessly. You want to keep pressure on the lanes. Look at top lane as well. They're pushed in. Both teleports are down. Whirlips is coming up sooner. Reactionary push from Elements in the mid lane, putting some pressure, but they have Whirlip catching that. They could move Audrey down here, or they could just straight up group and go for an on the hunt. Giants, they have a lot of liberty in their play, because they can make a lot more moves than Elements. Elements is playing with their back against the wall right now.
Yeah, and Giants are looking to push them all the way through that wall. So, tower taken, courtesy of some minions on the bottom side, prompts Giants Gaming to start up this Drake. No response so far from Elements. Looks like they're going to give this one up for free. So Giants grab a nice little bit for themselves in that one fell swoop.
Yeah, and similar to what I was saying about those sieges and towers, the way Giants want to break the mold, open up this game is through lane control, push in one side of the map and then go to the other side, and basically break open the game that way. We saw JWoww leave for the top lane. Uh-oh.
Godfred, he could be in some trouble. Promise Q gets the double knockup. Whirlip knocked into the tower. JWoww now looking to hunt down Godfred, but Whirlip picks up Froggen, and let's see how this fight finishes without the mid laner Pepinero running amok, but he gets exhausted immediately, and it is a 1-for-1 with Godfred dropping. Giants Gaming still come out ahead, I would say, in that one. They keep on sieging.
As a support player, you gladly sacrifice your life if that means taking out the enemy mid lane and more essentially part of the wave clear. Kog'Maw doesn't have enough wave clear here, and Whirlip's going in.
Whirlip is going in. JWoww is going to get dropped in. Whirlip flashing at the last minute to avoid the living artillery. Promise Q goes down. Double kill over to Pepinero. Dexter flashing away, hopefully to safety, but no, he goes down after the turret. They get a few more kills. That's a triple. Pepinero, ole!
And they get Tabs' flash. In addition to that, Giants again escaping death very narrowly, and this is the so many times this game where Giants they're taunting Elements. They're saying, you want me? You get me? Nope, you don't get me, barely. I'm out alive on low HP. Tabs even blew an offensive flash in that fight, and as a Kog'Maw against this composition from Giants, it will be risky for him to enter the next fight. Elements might not even want to fight in the next 5 minutes, but they'll have to because they're 5,000 gold behind.
Seems like they've been playing under the false sense of security for a little while, and that has just been blown wide open. 19.5 minutes into the game, we're not quite 20 there. Giants have a fairly massive lead, as you said, 5,000 gold ahead of this game. And I talked a little earlier about how in both the games last week, Elements, things turned pretty lopsided at 22 minutes or so. Well, it seems like the pace has accelerated.
Yeah, they'll definitely need the things to turn in their favor soon, or they're looking to lose this game. It's a little early to talk about it. No tier 2 towers have gone down, no Baron has gone down, so we...
Only one dragon.
Only one dragon, so we should hold our horses. This wouldn't be the first time a gold lead like this gets turned around in the LCS, but Giants, they came out swinging, and they have some stamina left. They can swing a little more so far.
Well, Elements, they're going to have to come up with a new strategy than taking the punches. We'll see what they do going forward. We've hit the 20-minute mark. Baron has now hit the field. Giants are very strong. I don't know if they're strong enough to try and brazenly take that just yet, so we'll see what they do.
So I've been watching these two new youngsters on the field, Promise Q on Alistar and Godfred on Morgana. Godfred feeling a little more comfortable, landing a lot more bindings than he did last week, and Promise Q, I feel he's popping his Unbreakable Will too late. This is 2 times in a row where I've seen him die within the duration of Unbreakable Will, and why Alistar was such a good meta pick right now is because popping Unbreakable Will usually meant you will not die in the next 5 to 7 seconds unless you're tanking more than 3 members at once in the mid game. So dying twice in that duration means you're doing something wrong. Blue buff contesto.
Yep, speaking of blue buff troubles, JWoww was able to secure that back up, and he will make his escape. That was a costly blue buff to take back.
Yeah,
but he gets it.
It's not about the blue buff. It's about the message. Stay out of my jungle.
You're not getting blue buff?
Stay out of my jungle, Giants. This is mine. All mine. I'm a smite Hecarim. But he uses ulti, as you said, quite closely. Let's see if Giants can capitalize on this, or if they're a little flabbergasted by just what happened exactly.
Still, the pressure is there for them. They've got all the outer turrets available. They have a little bit more leeway to move around the map. Binding is going to hit Dexter as he clears away that ward. Of course, doesn't stop him from attacking. Peppy's got his blue buff now. So importantly, it's really been denied for Froggen. I mean, that's got to be the frustrating thing for him this game.
Now, talking about builds, we see the Righteous Glory come out on the Maokai, so he sacrificed a little bit of tankiness for utility. A little bout in the top lane there. We see Elements converging, so I might have to drop this point as we're getting ready for another.
They're all showing up.
All right.
I guess not.
Guess not.
Okay.
Getting my point. Great. Fantastic. Thank you, Elements. So Aegis and Giants build on the side of Dexter. I like that. I like that we're seeing early Aegis's build in these team comps, because if there's so much fighting, the value of that aura goes up, especially since people are grouping a lot. However, Giants looking for a bit of a rotation, but they get forced out again, and this is what I said earlier. The wave clear from Elements is definitely keeping them in this game. And to reiterate on that point, I would have liked to see an Aegis potentially on Evelyn, for example, since Godfred's going for his standard Mikael's build. He seems to like building that item in every situation. Last week he built it, I think it was nerves or something, because it was totally not ideal. This time I can see it. These carries are diving in deep and they get counter-engaged by the Sejuani ulti, so Mikael's will definitely be a good pickup. But if your support's not building Aegis, the jungler should take over, because this is a team game, especially when you play this comp that is very grouping focused. The value of that aura goes up if it can spread to 3 or 4 members.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does indeed. So, taking stock of where we're at right now, just shy of 23 minutes on the board. Dragon's going to come up in another minute, but there's been a little bit of sparse warding from Giants on this bottom side. They've really invested a lot more in the top side and trying to make sure they can spot elements out in the top, but the field of play shifted a little bit. There's not that many people there. Since Dragon is about to come up, Giants, they're now moving in mass down to the bottom, seeing if they can catch anyone. JWoww's the only one there right now. Binding's gonna hit him smack in the back though, and he is going to get chunked, having to ult away. Not great timing if you want to be able to contest a Dragon.
And I like this. Good pressure from Giants. Don't settle for just a Dragon vision. Get that vision deep in the enemy jungle so you can set up plays later. You want to be thinking 2 steps ahead right now. Just Dragon's not enough. You want to push one lane, get the Dragon, potentially rotate there, continue, just turn the heat on. Just keep elements under pressure and eventually they will crack.
Hoping to expose a few more cracks in that Element's armor. Dragon hits the board. Giants in position. They're not quite starting it yet, waiting until they're safely nice and grouped. There's no smite here, though. Frederick's actually a little bit late to the party, but it looks like he's not even needed. Elements, they're not even going to try to contest this.
Elements has no way of finding out whether Evelyn's there, so they just assume the worst that she is. There's no Hecarim ulti on JWoww because he just had to use it defensively. There's no way in hell Elements is going to contest this Dragon, and they have no cross-map potential. They can't go for Baron, they can't go for top tower, so it's good that they're already moving Frederick around as a mobile vision station, so to say. Get an idea of where Elements is, because if you know where they are, you know where they are not, and then you can move into that area. Keep the map open, Giants.
Yeah, just like that. He's like an old pink ward. He can't be seen.
Can't be seen.
But he gives you vision.
Eventually they'll find him though, and then they'll kill him for the juicy gold.
Peppy is, he's worth quite a lot of juicy gold himself. He goes up top to clear out the minion wave. Giants did a great job defending their turrets this game. Only lost the mid one, and that was to minions now. Elements trying to flex their muscles, but I don't think Giants are afraid.
So yeah, there's 2 ways to approach this game at this point. One is putting Pepinero on split push duty top and hover around the Baron area and completely forgetting about bot lane. Not too big of a fan, it's a little early. I would rather see Pepinero go bottom or send Whirlip bottom with his teleport, Peppy top, keep the map open, not go for the Baron, but just keep rotating around these tier 2 towers, and once one of them or 2 of them drop, then you can start pushing in the lanes, disappear, go back into the dark area, and look for the Baron. Meanwhile, you pick up the buffs in the enemy jungle.
Exactly. Keep the pressure on, try to expose the cracks, as you said. Also, taking a few buffs away certainly doesn't hurt. Now, JWoww extended a little far up. He's still on Hecarim, but remember, we said it before, he doesn't have any defensive summoners. Now, cover's blown as the teleport comes in from Whirlib, but he might be cut off. Gonna ult into the Dragon Pit. They still catch him on the binding, and now they're looking to close the net. Frederick will find him. Promiscue and Froggen are there, however, and JWoww gallops to freedom.
Well, it looks nice. I think this was a poor investment of resources. Why would you use your teleport down to the bot lane to get a pick? What do you do if you get that pick? Absolutely nothing is the answer. Killing JWoww is not going to win you the game. He still has teleport. He'll spawn in about 30 seconds. If you go for Baron, he'll be there in time. Look, you're losing your top tower, Giants. Now they're pretty much forced to dive. Their play is becoming predictable at this point, and when Giants become predictable, teams punish them.
Looking to do that right now. They lost a tower on the top, and Giants are unable to push on the bottom side. In a 5v4 situation, Promiscue even grabs a little bit of vision back here.
Now let's go back 2 more minutes and live in a world of fantasy where that teleport didn't get used to bot lane, where Brilliant would be pushing mid lane, where Elements actually responded to this rotation. They could have saved their towers, but Giants, they do open up the map enough to get this tower. I think it's a bit of a mistake of Elements to let this one go, but you see how valuable it is to get Elements defending one side of the map and then using your mobility to move to another and get these objectives, rather than just simply playing for picks. Every move you make has to be tied to an objective.
Every move you make. Pepinero tries to secure that blue buff. Dexter was the one who smited away, but he took a lot of damage in his health bar for that one. It has been a big fight over this game. Froggen, where did his health bar go? Promiscue now on the run. They've got him locked up. Meanwhile, Whirlip and Frederick are jumping in to an injured Element. There's the Chaos Storm. Godfred is the only one locked up by the Glacial Prison, and Pepinero is gonna carve himself up some beef. JWoww and Tabs are the only Elements members remaining, and that is gonna be Baron.
And what a big tree Whirlip is in this fight. We saw the early game. He snowballed that 1v1 against JWoww on Hecarim, and look how tanky he got. And this is what we said, he will dive on your backline. Frederick flashed over too. They dove 2v4 against Elements with a Sejuani ult, and they got out alive. And it looks like they're trying to pick up the Baron right now, barring him miraculously. 360 no scope from Tabs. This one's going down.
Yep. I don't think he's even going to try to take the shot. Down it goes, secured by Audrey. Giants Gaming now. We'll talk about them in a minute. Let's see this fight.
So you asked me, where did Froggen's health bar go? That's where it went. He has to flash out. Promised you good unbreakable will right here. The bottom of your screen, they're diving 2v4, and watch how their health bars dissipate. Frederick flashes out defensively, actually did not go in like I said earlier, but watch Whirlybee tank this. It's incredible. Like, you should
that's
never...
big tree.
Big tree. Don't let that happen, Elements. Next game you do this, please gank your top lane.
It's not the only time when his bark's worse than his bite, but they both sting.
They both sting indeed, and he's tanky, does a lot of damage, and this is why Maokai was in that list of champions that was picked so often, because you can pick him early, not give away much information, and he will fit in pretty much any composition, and worst case, you have an extra tank. I like
well, you know,
tanks.
and it's nice to see the evolution a little bit, in comfort at least, from Whirlib, because last split, it was pretty much Jax or go home, and he tried a number of different things. They didn't quite work out for him. He just wasn't comfortable. People took really heavy advantage of just trying to camp him and deal with him, and Giants didn't really know how to respond. Now he's 3-1-9 on this Maokai. He's becoming a top carry.
Yeah, we see the Aegis picked up on Godfrey, and it's because Giants are winning these fights without getting punished by crowd control. So they don't need necessarily that Mikhail's Crucible to get out of this crowd control. He's fine opting into an Aegis rather and get more just generic tankiness. Godfrey's fine, and I like that adaptation. He sees that his jungler doesn't have an Aegis. He sees that the value is higher than getting rid of one CC on Element's side. And good adaptation here, 8,000 gold in the lead. And to reiterate on your point, Whirlib's doing well. You look at Audrey, he's doing well in his supportive utility AD carry role. Pepinera is no longer the one-man carry this game for Giants. They're spreading out the resources, they're doing well on all sides, on all flanks, and I like it. Good job, Giants.
Yes, but nonetheless, Pepinera's still a very, very scary carry right now. 30 seconds till the next dragon, but Giants have some other things on their mind. With the Baron buff, they're pushing 4 members deep on the bottom. It's defended by Elements, however, they don't feel like they can dive down here, but they've still got most of the map in their control.
While I said good job, Giants, why is there nobody top lane? If you have the Baron buff and you can 1-3-1, these towers will crumble, they will fall. You don't have to fight for these towers. Just rotate the map. Use your advantage that you can buff all 3 lanes at once, and eventually Elements will back out. They have double wave clear, but they need to use it on the same lane to get rid of these Baron buff minions. Yes, you can force your way in, but I think it's highly inefficient.
I agree. It seems like they prefer the brute force approach, but it's definitely dragging things on a little bit here. So 30 minutes is now the game timer. As we mentioned, it's a massive gold lead for Giants Gaming. 9,000 ahead. They've got 2 dragons to the Nun of Elements. They're looking to take another here. They've got 5 towers to 3. Honestly, those numbers should be higher.
Yeah, I think it could be, but it's okay. I understand why Giants is taking this safe approach. If a fight breaks out somehow, if they get caught, they're at least all 5 there, and they're guaranteed to very likely win it, barring a miraculously AoE engage from Dexter. And I think that is kind of the one way Elements can get back into this game, right? A good Sejuani engage, multiple people knocked up, multiple people ultied, and then just JWoww diving in with the Onslaught of Shadows, doing an extra fear, and then Froggen's AoE coming out. That's what Elements is looking for, and Giants is not allowing that at all, so I understand why they take this quote-unquote pseudo-passive group approach, because they have the Sivir, but you have to be flexible in your strategies. But so far, it's working, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, well, so far, that seems to be the strategy, Crepo. So, Giants Gaming, serious lead for them. They've yet to find a way to close it out, but Elements, they're not keen on giving them the chance. They're definitely digging deep to try and keep this defense going, and they don't want to start this split 1 and 2. Nobody does, but Elements, this is their big new roster. This is their time to shine, and Giants Gaming right now, they've pretty much been schooling them around the map.
Yeah, definitely schooling them slowly. Mistakes on both sides, but Giants, good improvement, honestly, playing well. And I think we won't see much happening here. A couple tower pushes, but I don't think the base will be broken up until next Baron, or potentially Giants saying, hey, Elements, we're about to take our 4th dragon. Do you really want that to happen? Come and fight us. I think that's likely to go. Might see a panic engage earlier from the Elements side, but I doubt it.
Yeah, Whirlib is just way too tanky at this point. He can just keep on holding the line. Pepinero should be able to freely grab himself a blue buff. That damage he's dishing out is just too much to handle. So that's taken. Frederick waiting around, seeing if he can pull off the Evelyn flank. And it looks like we might be in for a dive here, Crepo. JWoww is going to get bound, but nothing will come of it just yet.
Yeah. Look at Frederick's position, and I like it. He's flanking, and he has to. He has to surprise the backline of Elements and get a wombo combo going. They're going in!
There we go! Whirlib is targeting out Froggen, but the rest of Giants are on to Dexter, and the rest of Elements. Tabs, chunk down, Pepinero going nuts on everybody. Frederick getting some kills for himself. Peppy staying alive. That's a double for Pepinero. Dexter is the last man standing as Peppy finally gets shut down.
Ace for Giants, and how does Pepinero manage to survive so long? He's the only Giant to go down in his team, and 5-for-1 trade, and Giant putting on the flame again, and they're going deep, and they're finally gonna break open this base, and that's what they need. Get rid of one of those base towers, then they get another Baron. They can close out this game, and Elements, strength in numbers wasn't enough. Beautiful re-engagement by Pepinero. He gets the 2 carries in his E ability, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and let's not forget Frederick either. Magnificent on the flank. He secured a few kills for himself. Greedy approach here from Giants, but it doesn't even matter because there's really nothing Elements has been able to do against them here. Inhib goes down in the middle. They've already grabbed one. There's a teleport, though. This might be the moment that Elements can strike back. Will it be the case? Do they still have a hope? JWoww going low, and I don't think Elements have enough left in the tank here.
They're chasing, they want to kill, but even if they get it, it'll be hard to translate this into an objective, and that's what League of Legends is all about. And Gottfried on Morgana, showing why this pick is 4-0 so far in the European LCS. That Black Shield doesn't get knocked, doesn't get chain CC, he can walk out, gets the heal from his AD carry. We're all buddies over here, helping each other, and Giants get away, trade a teleport for nothing, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, no worries at all. Baron's coming up in another 30 seconds. Elements knows this, however. They are grouping up around that side, see if they can take away the red buff, but it's going to be just so damn hard to fight this Giant squad, as big as they are right now. And they wait in the brush, but they're spotted. Down goes the ward. Frederick runs into the gravity field, runs right on through it. Promiscue, as tanky as he's trying to be, he's just not enough. Frederick is gonna flash into the red, gets shut down by Tabs Kog'Maw, but Pepinero, meanwhile, is going nuts again. Tabs goes down, double kill for the Diana. Froggen is gonna get melted. Another triple from Peppy, and JWoww is the only one to live to tell the tale.
Giants, they launched the pain train, and Elements just can't stop it. One by one they drop. We saw Promiscue, even in Unbreakable, will get pretty much insta-gifted, and once that starts happening, you know your days are numbered if you're an immobile carry like a Kog'Maw, like a Victor, against the likes of this team comp of Giants, and yeah, they're snowballing their lead into an avalanche almost, and I don't see Elements doing all too much to come back into this game.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculously hard for them. They're down more than 17,000 gold. They've not picked up a drag in this game. That's the second Baron that Giants have been able to grab after massive lopsided fights, and Giants Gaming are on a fast track here for a 2-1 start in the LCS summer.
17,000 gold. Just imagine how many site wards you can buy with that much money. Let's see this again. Frederick no longer even has to flank anymore. When you're Evelyn with On the Hunt and you can just form an ulti like that, initiate the fight, Boomerang comes out, AoE damage. Promiscue again, dying in an Unbreakable will. Dexter is the main tank, but he can't survive this. Pepinero just takes one down, gets the reset, and look at Tabs. He's immobile, so he's gone, he uses Flash in last fight. Froggen, what are you gonna do?
Yep.
What are you gonna do? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, JWoww, I mean, the only reason he got away from that is because he's Hecarim and who's on the back line.
Yeah, but when Hecarim's running away from the fight, they're usually bad.
Definitely not great for Elements right here. Things are in a dire situation, so they turn. Desperate times call for desperate measures. We've got a Fnatic Death Brush here, but will it be enough? Pepinero is going to check right into it. They will shut him down, but will they be able to follow up? Dexter's getting chunked out now by Audrey, and Godfred is on the hunt, is popped. They're chasing through with the ricochet. Audrey comes up with the pick. Promiscue now focused out. He gets the headbutt, tries to tank the line, but he's not going anywhere as he gets taken down by Whirlib. 2 for 1 after the catch.
And the irony in that play, that was the exact same brush Pepinero was hiding in the second game of the spring split where Elements faced off against Giants, and he annihilated Froggen. Froggen, he said, I'm going to lose this game, but I want my revenge. I'm going to hide in the exact same brush and kill you, Pepinero. So you learn how it feels. Sadly enough, wasn't enough. Giants pop on the hunt, chase them down, and they're looking to close out this game, Pyra.
Yeah, they are looking to close it out indeed. One Nexus turret going down. JWoww, desperate last charge into the Giant squad, but they don't seem to care. It barely tickles, taking him down. Froggen will fall again. They have lost Whirlib as well, but it just doesn't matter. Shutting down Tabs. A triple kill there for Audrey, though. Everything has gone Giants' way this game. They'll finish off the last Nexus turret just to finish the game. All they've got to do is bang on the Nexus, but Dexter and Promiscu are still haranguing in there. Make that just Dexter. He goes back to Fountain. The Nexus is bare, and that is gonna be GG. Giants are 2-1.
Giants take this game pretty convincingly, and let's be honest, a bit to the surprise of many. Elements, they've shown some weaknesses in week 1, but many thought they would at least fix it, or they wouldn't be big enough for Giants to capitalize them, and Giants, they looked even stronger than last weekend. Solid performance, a few itemization issues in the early game, a few optimization possible to close out this game, but overall very strong, very calculated, safe play, and impressive victory by Giants here.
Yeah, and I think they're recognizing a lot more win conditions that they really need to have here instead of just trying to fight crazily. Yes, they did that, and they were able to win, but they also, just like in their game against the Copenhagen Wolves last week, they were able to grab Drakes, they were able to snowball a little bit more and get that done. Over on the Elements camp, though, I feel like they just didn't get off the ground this game.
Yeah, and Elements falling into patterns yet again. Dexter going for that bot lane when they have a scaling AD carry with a defensive peel support like Alistar. Yes, Alistar can engage, but he's fine on his own. Playing as the utility AD carry like the Sivir, and then not helping JWoww in his matchup against the tank. If JWoww is playing carry champions, he needs some help because teams will start to recognize this and do this over and over and over again. And you need to always imagine, what is Giants going to do? If you're playing this game, not only do you need to know, what am I going to do? What are my opponents going to do? What is their most likely play? And how much will it impact us if that play works? If that's a lot, then you need to prevent that play or have countermeasures. Either you have JWoww play a little more passive, a little more back, because he was kind of expecting a gank, but not to be that brutal. And then, yes, Dexter showed up, but a little late. And Elements, again, this passive approach, too far back, allowing Giants to get into the game. And this time, they couldn't stop the bleeding.
Yeah, no, it was really just at that point, it turned into a bloodbath all across the board. Giants, I feel like for them though, yes, they had some massive improvements, especially over last split from what we've been seeing. But as you mentioned, still some pattern-based mistakes. Knocking on the front door, 5-man stacked with Baron buff, not fully utilizing what they have in their toolkit. And I don't think it was really limited by their composition. I think it was just decision-making.
Well, their composition facilitated grouping, as we said before. Sivir, you like to group around her with the Maokai. It's pretty straightforward, 5-man group. And I like it because it's simple, straightforward, and it's good if you're not a struggling team. But if you're not on top of the pack, then it's okay to stick to one strategy and try and execute that well, and then branch out. So I like it. I know how hard it is to play 1-3-1 efficiently without losing somebody on the left side, on the right side. Because if you play 1-3-1 and you lose one member, all the pressure falls because you have to go back, build it back up, and it's a multi-step process that takes multiple minutes to set up. But once it comes to fruition, that's when you reap the benefits. And I understand why Giants did it. But they played relatively safe once they had the lead, and I like that at the same time too. Why give Elements a chance to get back into the game?
Exactly.
Just keep the same thing going. As I said before, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's very true. Individual performance-wise, everyone across the board on Elements, that we did see a lot of step up. I feel Werlib has gotten a lot more comfortable. We mentioned his performance on the Maokai. Yes, he kind of got very far ahead, had a little bit of help, but it really showed he was able to get rolling. And at the same time, Audrey, he wasn't by any means really a carry in the early stages of the game.
Doesn't have to be.
Towards the end, yeah, he doesn't have to be. He just has to pop on the hunt. They run at them. They're able to pick kills. But he ended the game with a KDA of 20. 0 deaths, 7 kills, 13 assists.
That's why
we talked about him stepping up, but that was pretty big at the end too.
Thank you, Audrey, because I love Sivir, and I think this is actually what she needs to do. Play safe in your lane, have the spell shield to survive, couple that with Morgana, double spell shield. It's incredibly hard to gank this lane unless you have a very high amount of raw damage output. Pop down on the hunt, snowball your teammates. That are these dive-heavy assassins. And Giants, for the first time, or for one of the few times, they felt like a team to me. It was no longer the Peppy Man show. It was a team of Giants working together towards their goal. Very defined roles. Kind of obvious strategy, but efficient strategy. And I liked it.
Yeah, and also the other side of their bot lane too. Godfrey, we talked about how these 2 new supports were going to do. Well, this is Godfrey's second game on Morgana. It's also a win.
20 KDA as well?
Still, 20 KDA. He had 1 death, 19 assists. An even better performance than they had versus the Copenhagen Wolves. And I feel the adaptation, you were talking about his item choices, what they were doing, did feel like for the first time in a while, since we've seen them enter the LCS, Giants, they've started to play much more team-based, much more dynamic. And yes, there's still some mistakes there, but that's really good hope for them moving forward up the standings. I mean, right now they're in a great position.
Yeah, that's me though. I really like nitpicking these like tiny mistakes because I want these teams to improve. Because not only do I want Europe to do well, I want Europe to eventually get to the world stage and do well there. And then you will have to fix this because these better teams will exploit your mistakes. Over on Element's side, early game, Froggen, he got camped. He was 0-4 very early in the game, and they couldn't stop the bleeding, as I said before, and kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, kind of snowballed from there, and we'll hear more about that as we send it over to the analyst as Square Shocks and crew are standing by for a word with our 2-1 Giants.
Thank you so much, Pyrotechnics, and we are joined here by Werlip and Godfred after that very, very impressive victory versus Elements. Congratulations, first off.
Thanks.
Werlip, I'd like to start with you. A massive game on Maokai. Tell me how your game went.
Well, in the early game, we just wanted to kill the Karin because he has no escape. I don't like to play Maokai, but I think it's a really, really good pick versus a Karin. So we just were like, okay, we just have to farm a Karin to get ahead to focus. The early game with the TPs was really, really good. So
yeah,
we won.
you won pretty straightforward. I like that you mentioned I don't like to play Maokai, but I did. In the spring split, there was a lot of talk about what is Werlip's champion pool like. How do you think you're progressing as a player in that?
Well, before entering the LCS, I always played like Jax, Irelia. I like that assassins on top lane. But I think you need to play champs like Maokai, Nar, if you want to be a really good player, because sometimes the team need you. You are a tanky top laner. So I think that I have grown really, really well in this split and in the last. I think I can do it well with tanks.
Yeah, Maokai was definitely impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. And one thing I think that seemed impressive from the outside was the communication from the Giants over the last 2 weeks. Obviously, Godfred, you've just joined the team, but the team has had to now speak English. How has that been as a new member for the team?
Well, it's funny because like in the house and stuff, it depends if they speak English or Spanish, but usually when it involves me, we speak in English. So we have no problems with that. And in game, it's in general English. So I make the calls and stuff in English and they listen, of course. But of course, otherwise I hate them, all right? But yeah, it's no problems at all.
Well, it certainly seems to be working. And before we get a little bit into the nitty-gritty of the actual game itself, one thing that really worked for the Giants this game was their early game aggression. They actually, this game, changed everything. Previously, they were giving away a lot of kills. This time, they actually picked up 2 kills for every one they gave. So that was very impressive from the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. From you guys going for the objectives later as well. Jumping back to the communication, we actually want to show a replay where you guys can talk us through how the communication went in this instance. This is very early in the game where you guys end up picking up a 4-for-1, Godfred.
All right, so I see them fight here in mid, and I'm like, oh shit, I might need to move here. So I start running, and they keep on fighting. I don't know.
And this moment, Werlip comes in with the double fight.
Yeah, and now they go deep. So I just keep on running, and they seem to be doing a good job.
Were you already certain that the tower dive was a good idea when you were coming in?
Yeah, it looked good. So I was just kept going, and I saw that Pepinero needed some help, and I flash blinded the Hecarim. And I don't know.
So you're calling this whole thing?
No, I'm not calling. I'm just reacting to what they do in mid.
I was saying they didn't call the TP. I just saw the fight and I say I will TP. I didn't say I was going to flash. I just saw the moment.
Instinct.
Top instinct. Well, it definitely worked out for you guys. Well, congratulations and more wins to come. If we look at you guys playing here today, I think that's definitely on the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we need to take a break, but when we return, Roccat will try and hand Fnatic their very first loss of the season. See you right here in 3.5.
Hola, 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 hola. We them boys.
Dexter burning away. Will he fall afterwards? Frederick helps it out, and it ends up being a double for Peppy.
Hey, promise.
Nice.
Keep going.
Nice. flashing at the last minute to avoid the living artillery. Promise Q goes down, double kill, over to Pepinero. Dexter flashing away, hopefully to safety, but no.
Push carry, del carries. Nice, guys.
Hacker him, hacker him, hacker him.
Nice. Chase. Keep chasing.
Oh my god!
Nice, get out.
And that is gonna be GG. Giants are 2-1.